Hey y'all, and welcome back to Photographer Life Check. And happy Black Music Month! Okay, so this week we have sort of a different episode. If you don't know, I host the Black Women Photographers Summit. It's an annual summit that we do, and our normal summit is actually next month in July. But this year we expanded this summit and we launched over the weekend the inaugural Black Women Music Creative Summit. Yes. We're so proud. We're so proud. So this summit is really cool because we got to go on deep dives with Black music creatives that's in our collective that are just playmakers and incredible artists. And so through this launch, it's like a brand new event. It's 3 days, just like our other annual summit. And yeah, it's focused entirely on Black women in music. We have a partnership with Live Nation Urban. We've been partnering them for over 3 years, but we get all into that in the actual episode. So, what we have for you today is one of the conversations we had over the weekend. I spoke to, I don't know, maybe about 10 Black women photographers and one Black woman executive who works at Live Nation Urban, who put us on game on like how things are working on the back end where she at and on the creative end. And we just think these conversations were super valuable. So we wanted to let you guys in on the weekend we just had in case you don't know. So I'm going to show you guys the conversation I had with Edwina Hay, this incredible photographer. I won't spill the details or anything. I'm going to just let y'all listen to the episode. But please make sure y'all check out the Black Women Photographers YouTube channel where you can see all of the speakers from over the weekend. Okay? All right. Y'all ready? Cool. Let's get into the show. Hey, y'all, and welcome back to the inaugural Black Women Music Creative Summit. In the meantime of today, I have lost the nail. We're down one, but the waves have marinated. So, you know what I'm saying? You take your W's and you take your L's. It's okay. Off the top, I just want to say thank you again to Live Nation Urban. I keep telling y'all, we've been partnered with them for the past 3 years, and it's been an incredible collaboration to do stuff like this, to send other Black women and African creatives on to things like concerts and tours. And it's just been such a beautiful partnership. So thank you again, Live Nation. And I'm so excited to get into today's guest. We have an incredible photographer with us, Edwina Hay.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. Looking forward to speaking with you and the Black women photographers community. And this is a great opportunity to kind of talk about myself and my work and documenting live music and just being a part of the community.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of yourself, can you give everybody maybe just like a little intro? You can start off with the type of photography you do, where you're based, that kind of thing.
Sure. I'm Edwina. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York City. I've lived here all my life. Kind of got into attending concerts and documenting them in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I started on film because that was what was available at the time. Migrated to digital, like point and shoots, and now I'm fully mirrorless. So I do a lot of concerts, events. I also like do a little weird events, which are always fun. Like New York just had the first and last Pigeon Fest. So I went to that because it was celebrating pigeons, which are always around New York. And this artist made a giant pigeon sculpture at the High Line. So they had a all day festival a week ago. So I documented that. Just anything of interest, basically music, events, portraits, things like that.
I also want to shout out the fact that like you're a BWP legend at this point because or I should say Edwina was a 2024 recipient of the Nikon grant. Is that right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
I received a Nikon Z7 II kit, which is basically my main kit these days. So that's pretty much what I use most of the time when I'm documenting something.
And then this year you became a judge.
Yes. So I helped review many entries to narrow down to the winners that were given grants and either financial grants or camera grants. So it was kind of great to kind of come full circle that way. Like I was a recipient and then I helped bring those kinds of gifts to other people.
I think that's the beautiful part about BWP. something like being a judge for a grant sounds like this big, big dream. Like, how do you even become a judge? Like, who do you have to know for that? But at BWP, we are always working together. Like, it's literally an ecosystem to do stuff like this. Oh, right. I keep forgetting to tell y'all, I host the Photographer Life Check podcast, which is the first podcast underneath the BWP network. And I started that because I started hosting the summits after year two. Like, we keep doing this together. Like, we all are
Right.
working together. It's not hard to reach any of us that are in this collective. Like, if you have any questions, it's why we do stuff like this. But just about everybody, I'm sure, is reachable by DM, email. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the
Yeah, I would say not like Instagram DM just because they filter stuff from people you don't follow, but like I have a contact page on my website, my email's there. Like I'm happy to answer questions if people just reach out by email.
there we
I don't
go.
want you to like DM me and then I don't see it just because Instagram didn't show it to me. So that is a caveat that I want to say, but I'm happy, just I have a contact page on my website. I have an email address listed there. Just feel free to reach out.
Exactly. Beautiful. Okay. So glad. Since we mentioned the Nikon grant, how about we just start off with gear? For those who don't know, during these conversations, we like to pull up the artist's website or Instagram so folks can see what's going on, the things that they shot, their portfolio. So let's start off at the gear.
Yeah.
Because also what I'm interested in is the fact that you were shooting everything. And I mean, at one point, everybody was shooting everything on film. I'm curious if you still shoot film, if you have a digital kit, a film kit, like let us know what
Yeah,
it's like.
absolutely. I kind of do film sometimes, like basically if I'm out with friends and I don't want to like carry, my regular gear, I'll just throw a film camera in my bag. Like I have a Canon point and shoot that I use. I also have a Nikon F100 that I actually bought from another fellow photographer. Shout out to Victoria Sanders.
Okay.
So those are like the
Oh,
yeah, V Sanders. So I bought her film
okay.
camera that she was selling, and I was like, so she shipped it to me from Chicago. So those are the main film cameras that I use, but those are kind of like, I don't know, like, my friend had a birthday party for her dog, so I brought a film camera. Like, I didn't want to bring my mirrorless to document that, and that was like my whole role. So, I think these days film is more kind of like personal stuff opposed to, you know, things that I'm shooting on assignment, but like I
Yeah.
did portraits of an artist that I was shooting for the label and his record release show. I brought my film camera. I need to finish that roll that it's on. So it's like I'll bring it sometimes as like an extra thing, but mostly the work that you see on my portfolio, this is Nikon digital cameras. I did a D750 for a while. I think my first one was a D200. Then I went to D50, D90, then Nikon Z5. So most of the mirrorless stuff that I do these days is either Nikon Z5 or the Z7 II. And I
Okay.
have been borrowing the Z6 III from Nikon because I'm thinking about getting that next because V has recommended it for low light photography. She does a lot of club work, and sometimes there's not a lot of great lighting at some of the spaces that you shoot. So if you can get a camera that works well in low light, that's just gonna, make your work even better.
Yeah. Can you talk about maybe some of your favorite lenses that you choose to?
Sure. Mostly I am shooting with a 24 to 70, which is a little wide, and then a 70 to 200. I have started shooting with a 100 to 400, especially for theaters where I know I might need to shoot further back or get a tighter shot if I'm not super close. So that has become a favorite. Like, there's this venue here called Brooklyn Paramount. So if I go to the back of the room and I want to show the audience and the band, then I'll try to use the 100 to 400 because it's about the same weight as my 70 to 200, but it gives me a longer reach. So that's been a lens that I've been using a lot lately. And then if I'm at a small club and there's a lot of people on stage, I'll want to go wider than the 24. So I have a 17 to 28, I think. Also Nikon. So that's great for showing like, 4 or 5 people on a stage that's you're really close and you want to show everybody in the frame. Like I shot a band, I think that had like 5 or 6 members, and they were impressed that I was able to get everybody in one shot because they've never had that before.
Nice. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I feel like almost everyone, if not everyone, is mentioning the 24 to 70 and the 70 to 200. I mean, I love those two lenses. I also use them all the time.
Hmm.
But nobody mentioned like, yeah, sometimes you need to get real wide at these
Yeah,
shows.
yeah. Yeah,
I like that. Don't
it's
forget the live.
definitely helpful, especially if you're in a small club and you've got a lot of people on stage and you just want to try and get everybody in the same frame. Then that's really helpful to be able to go a little wider. And I'm a house photographer for this festival called Celebrate Brooklyn, and they like to show a wide shot from the tower. So you get like the stage and the audience. So that's definitely a lens that I'll use when I'm further back trying to capture like the lighting, the act on stage, but showing a big crowd at this festival that happens in Prospect Park every year.
Okay, beautiful. I love that. So, do you primarily work at festivals or do you also, or excuse me, work for festivals or do you also sometimes work for artists?
A little bit of both. I feel like at this point, I'll just go wherever someone will have me. But so this summer, I'm one of the house photographers for Celebrate Brooklyn, as I mentioned. So that's basically as a house photographer for the venue. And then we have a local promoter called Bowery Presents. So I'll shoot shows that they put on different venues around. Basically, it's a bunch of photographers and we kind of pitch the shows, and then someone in the marketing group doles out the assignments. So that's one. Yeah, I just did a show for them on Wednesday. I'm trying to think of what else. I contribute to Brooklyn Vegan. They've been a long running blog that covers a lot of music. That's one place that I'll shoot for. And then I was a photo editor at Impose Magazine. They're like a small independent outlet. They used to be based in New York, and I think the editors are all now based in California. So I'll contribute to them time to time. And then, like the artists that I mentioned, I covered at the end of May. They were a part of a DIY venue called Shea Stadium here, named after the baseball stadium that was torn down and is now Citi Field. So when the original Shea Stadium went away, they created a DIY space called Shea Stadium. So he was involved with that, and his manager I've known for years, and she reached out to me saying, "Hey, he has a record release show. Are you available?" So that was how I got in with that artist, and we did portraits. I documented sound check, and then the live show later that night. So it's just a mix of knowing people who refer to me for things and then just shooting things that I'm interested in. Like I'll shoot things for myself. Like there's some venues I know if I buy a ticket and show up, I can shoot it. And then that's kind of for me. And I'll put that gallery on my website. So it depends. I feel like I kind of think about what's my easiest way to cover this
Mm.
artist and then kind of either pitch or, shoot it for myself sometimes.
So one thing I love about you is you're one of the few photographers I've been blessed to talk to that has been working for this long.
Yeah.
You've worked since 1999, which I'm gonna pull up because I love that you keep the archive on your website too.
Yeah,
Um,
I actually I started scanning the negatives myself, and I just like I don't have time to do this, so I kind of just paid a company and I was just like, here are my negatives, please digitize them. And then when I remember, I'll put, some sets up if I can find the information for it.
that's
So,
real. Um, what I'm thinking about is you exhibiting.
mm,
Because you have so much work and you've been doing this type of work for such a long time, you have literally a full archive of artists at very important times in their life. After a certain amount of years, now it's like, oh, that was that legendary album or that legendary show. Can you talk a little bit about how, as a music photographer, you can curate your own exhibition, your photos in an exhibition, and like what that takes for a photographer to do?
yeah, I have thought about this and I feel like I'm so overwhelmed at the idea of kind of doing an exhibition. So I kind of want to start small. I'm kind of inspired by another photographer that's here. Her name is Ebru Yildiz. She has done these limited zines with artists that she works with. And it's basically each zine is on an artist. Like if they're about to play in New York, she'll do portraits with them. They'll kind of come up with a concept. She'll do portraits of them and then she'll document the live show. And it's that zine focused on that one artist. And I've kind of had an idea based, not that specific idea, but I have been toying with the idea of basically I have all these older artists and then reshooting them again and kind of doing like,
That's
the
cool.
spanning of time. I don't know what I'm going to call it, and I don't know how I'm actually going to print it or anything like that. But that is definitely something I kind of want to work on.
That's so cool. For the exhibitions you've been in already, did you get to choose the photos that you wanted to display, or was a curator like, hey, can we use these three or something like that?
Yeah, I think the ones that I've been a part of, I've been lucky to basically pick what I want to um, submit. It kind of, I think the last one that I participated in, which was in March, it was an open call for photographers. So it was a great opportunity for anybody in the New York City area. We actually had some photographers that submitted outside of New York. They kind of sent work and then, it was on the walls. But um, I think the way I chose that one, it was like, okay, what is one that I want to see printed on a wall? So that was the way to approach it. Otherwise, just thinking about like they came up with a theme which was presence, and I was like, okay, if I think about presence, I'm just going to spiral and think about this too much. So I was like, okay, what is a shot that I did within the past couple of years that fits this theme, and what do I want to see on the wall? So it ended up being a shot of Kalela performing at Prospect Park. It was very silhouette-y. It was like red lighting, and then she's like a black silhouette. And I was just like, this speaks to the theme, I believe. And then it's a
Yeah.
photo that I want to see on a wall. So that's how I approached it. Otherwise, I get in my own head and I think about it too much. And then I was just like, if I do that, I'm not going to submit anything. So I need to just
Right.
narrow it down. Be like, okay, last 3 years, what do I think is presence? And actually have a group chat with other photographers, and we were kind of bouncing ideas off of each other, which was also helpful. Like just speaking to people that do the same work, and it's just like, okay, I narrowed it down to these two pictures. Which one should I do? And that was very helpful.
Incredible. I'm so appreciative of your perspective. I think it's super cool. Um, Also, considering the longevity you've had in this career, can you talk a little bit about the differences between shooting a show on film versus digitally, especially now having mirrorless camera, who, I mean, we can almost guarantee that every shot is gonna be in focus and clear,
Yeah.
like,
It's
so,
nice to be able to like preview, especially like, dark clubs shooting on, let's say 400 ISO film, like, and you're using a flash, you're like, okay, is this going to come out? Is it in focus? Did I capture the thing I thought I captured because someone was
right,
moving too fast? And then you get the rollback and you might get a couple where you're like, okay, I nailed it, and everything else is kind of garbage. But like having a digital, everything's faster, I think, especially with a lot of places, like people's attention spans are short. Like if you cover a show, if you don't post it within a certain time frame, they're going to move on to something else. So I feel like with digital, you're allowed to work faster, get it online, get people's attention, and then move on to the next project. But then, you have to worry about like storing files and,
yeah,
sometimes internet goes out. Like, how do you navigate like these challenges when you're shooting digitally? But, yeah, I think digital has come a long way. Like, I think my first camera was like a 2 megapixel camera, and now they like go up to, I think the Z7 II is like 45. So it's just like a huge leap forward in the digital space. And they're always doing something new, which is really intriguing and fun to play around with new equipment and see what it can do.
yeah. I have another question about film, but firstly, I just want to come back to the website
Yeah.
because your website is almost like a museum, almost like a music history. I absolutely love music. It's why I'm wearing this shirt. I mean, for the whole weekend, I want to wear music themed
Yeah.
shirts while I'm doing this. But I love this part about your archive and your blog where you are literally telling people just the short backstory about what was happening while you're photographing it. And then thinking about like, oh yeah, there's a time where you could have saw this artist for $15 and now the tickets are 500. Like
Yeah.
really setting the stage and the tone, I think is so, so beautiful. I think yeah, you're a historian. You're a music and photography historian. Like this is beautiful work.
Yeah, I think I was able to do this for the college newspaper. Like I went to Fordham University, the Lincoln Center campus. So I was working for the newspaper and I bought a ticket and I was just like, can I get a photo pass? And that's how I was able to be in the photo pit, which is the area between the stage and the audience. And that was probably one of the first shows I was able to do that way. Like I
Oh,
also
no.
had a friend who had a zine, and this does not happen anymore. So don't try it, but he would get a photo pass and he would just get an extra and give it to me. Like this will never happen now. Like it's definitely, they're like, okay, you are covering for this outlet and we can only have one photographer. Like they'll send a photographer and a writer and that's it. But it was just like, yeah, he had an extra photo pass. So that's also, and it was like Warped Tour, which is now back, which is weird. Yeah. So he would get like an extra photo pass and just give it to me. So that was also a way that I started, but definitely just figuring out small shows. New York has a lot of free shows over the summer. Like if someone is looking to get into music photography, I highly recommend just finding out free shows, showing up early with your camera and, you know, just getting started documenting live music. That's pretty much how I got started.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Um, Before we jump into a little more of that creative journey, can we talk about film? And I think now, typically, at least, I'm sure there are some full film photographers doing music, but when you're using film photography as a novelty for concerts, festivals, things like that, how can people make it easier on themselves when trying to make sure they can get the shot, with all these variables? It's low light, it's too bright, like all these kinds of things. Like, what are some of your go-to tips? Maybe just one or two about like managing a film camera for something like this.
Yeah. So when I was just learning photography in general, like I prefer to let in as much natural light as possible. So if you can set your aperture to is the lowest number, which is the bigger hole, just letting in that and then adjusting your shutter speed. Like if you're shooting something that's fast, then you'll want a faster shutter speed. But then you can also, if you're in a club and you want to play with like getting light streaks, then you can do a lower shutter speed. So it's just kind of experimenting and learning what the different parts of the camera kind of do. And then I feel like if you're definitely doing club photography, the higher ISO you can get, the better, just because it's like it's measuring the sensitivity to light. So if the lighting's not great, then you'll probably want an 800. I feel like Cinestel is a film brand that does 800. So does Kodak. You'll probably want a higher ISO number than a lower one because lower one is kind of designed for daylight. So if you're at an outdoor festival, then you can get away with like 200 or 400.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Do you ever bring any externals, whether shooting film or digital, like external lights, anything like that?
Oh yeah. Well, it depends because sometimes when you're shooting like standard clubs, it's like first three songs, no flash, right?
Mhm.
So, but I tend to pack a flash in my bag anyway because you just never know, especially if you're doing like a small club where they don't have the photo pit and you can kind of do whatever. So, yeah, I will bring, a flash. Especially if I'm doing like a smaller club and I'm not sure what the lighting will be. If there's no photo pit, then I feel like you kind of have the freedom to do flash. But at the same time, I don't want to use it too much because it's kind of distracting to the artist. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a nice tool to use where if there's a lot of movement and, like let's say you're covering a punk band and there's a lot of movement, yeah, you're going to need flash. Like there's no way around it because if you do a faster shutter speed, then you're kind of, cutting off the amount of light that gets into the camera. So you definitely want a flash. But if you're kind of shooting an artist that's like, sitting in a chair playing an acoustic guitar, then you don't really need a flash to cover that. You can just rely on the natural light.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, think about the artist you are shooting. Like, is this the type of artist that is just sitting there playing or just sitting there singing? Or is this the type of artist that is running across the stage and there's fire and fireworks?
Yeah.
Like, that's so fun. Do you have advice on like people shooting artists they don't know or don't even like? Like, do you ever shoot people you don't like a show you actually are not enjoying? And like, how does that affect your work?
Um, I definitely think you can tell like when a person really loves an artist, but I feel like it's all experience. Like I've definitely have seen and captured bands that are not my cup of tea. Like I would not listen to them on my own, but I still treat them like they are performing. I mean, sometimes bands like perform, you're not into their music, but you can just tell that they're great performers and those you could make fun pictures of that, but you don't have to listen to them outside of the show. So it's like I'm covering a lot of artists that I'm not familiar with. Like I just covered a show that had all Haitian artists. Like I don't speak Creole. Like my dad was Jamaican, my mom's from South Carolina. I don't
Hey.
understand Creole, but I still had a good time. Like everybody was just really into it. And, they would address the audience in English, but some of the songs were sung in Creole, which I don't understand, but I still loved their performances. So it's, you know, you treat it as like a job. Like if the performer's fun and entertaining, even if you don't like the music or don't understand it, you can still, get some great pictures out of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point. I'm also wondering about the relationships you build with artists or have built over time. It sounds like you've built great relationships with festivals and production teams and like you can keep coming back. Have you ever worked with an artist for like their rollout and what was that like?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't done that, but I've definitely gotten to know like artists just because I've, you know, seen shows at DIY spaces and I'm one of the few photographers there. So it's just like I've gotten to know artists. Like my husband introduced me to like Billy Woods and Elucid. So we see them around and it's kind of wild that they're blowing up now. But I'm like, we saw them try to perform a show at a Bushwick apartment and it got shut down by the cops like 10 years ago. So it's like, but I've gotten a portrait of the two of them. They played a free show over the summer and it was like, I was working with the venue, but I knew them and they, Billy Woods kind of avoids being photographed. So I got a portrait of them and he put his hand up to block his face, but it's like, I know them. So I feel like they were more likely to say yes than someone else shooting
Yeah.
because I've known them for years. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, then we can talk about how do you maintain relationships with production teams. So when you're working with a festival, who exactly are you talking to? Who should people be pitching to if they want to build relationships with festivals and stuff like that?
Sure. So for Celebrate Brooklyn, I am working with a marketing team. So I feel like a lot of times when, people are hiring, it's most likely the marketing team because they want to sell tickets and kind of market the festival or the experience itself. So that's a good place to get started. For Bowery Presents, I work with the marketing team. So we'll shoot these artists, but then we take photos that of like the audience having a good time or people up, and then they'll use those images later to kind of market like end of year things or, like, just in general, like sometimes they'll post about upcoming shows and then they'll use an old, like, you know, crowd shot that one of us have used to be like, here are our upcoming events. So in addition to, shooting live performances, I think if you capture people just enjoying the moment, that's always useful to a marketing team because they can use that work later to promote an artist, an upcoming show, or a series that they're doing. Yeah, I've been working with BAM sometimes, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, and that's also the marketing team. So I think mostly if I am involved with a venue or a series or something like that, it's via the marketing team.
Okay, cool. Um, when you're trying to navigate some of these conversations, I mean, I imagine a lot now people are reaching out to you. But when you are or were pitching, what are some of the things that you would say once you find the contact you want to reach out to? What are some of the things you can say? Do you put your rate in that pitch? Like, how do you navigate?
Yeah, so I think when I was getting involved with Celebrate Brooklyn, like I was referred by another photographer who's on the team. And one thing I think which might have been useful was I kind of dug up links of all the past shows that I covered at the festival and sent that to them to review. Like, hey, I've covered this for, like Brooklyn Vegan or Impose Magazine in the past. And I just had like a bunch of links of prior shows from prior seasons that they could review as an example of how like just me having that access to the first three songs only, like this is the kind of work that I did before, then they had an idea of what I could do if, I was working the whole show. And I also, had other examples of other shows, other things that I've worked with. I have private pages on my website that I also kind of sent as a review. Like I have a house photography page, so I sent that.
Hmm.
Um, highly
What-
recommend having like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say, highly recommend having a page on your site that you can just kind of show people examples of work that you can do. And that just makes it easier for them to kind of make a decision to hire you. Like, in addition, like if you want to provide your rate, you can, but I kind of tend to worry about the money conversation later. But I think just being able to show, like, hey, I have examples of this work on this page, here's the password, and this is stuff that I've done for other clients in the past. And that kind of helps the conversation move forward.
So I love this idea because I don't think anybody has ever talked about this before. For those who might be tuning in and just found out about BWP, we have a vast community of people who are just starting out. This is an idea. Maybe they just got their camera, haven't even tried anything yet, all the way to people like you who have been professionals for years and are like complete vets in this industry. So folks don't know everything. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like we're talking to a lot of different kind of people, and so we want to add value to everyone there.
Mhm.
So you have a private page on your website. Plenty of people struggle with curating their website anyway, where it's like, I'm a music photographer, but I also do love portraits and I also do love events. Like, how do I organize this thing? When you're building a private page, are you building multiple pages and
Oh, yeah.
curating one for each? Like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
what are you
So I
doing?
can give you the example. So I generally don't like to advertise that I have documented weddings just because I prefer to do that for like friends and people that I know. So I have a page that's just weddings that I've done. Then I have a house photography page. So that's the work that I've done for like Celebrate Brooklyn, BAM. I'm trying to think of who else I have on there. Barry Presents, that's another one that I work as a house photographer. Pioneer Works, which is a nonprofit organization here that hosts shows and science talks and different kinds of events. So they're on there. And so if anybody, so that's one page. I have another one for headshots that I do occasionally. So it's like stuff I don't want to have on my main site because, like, on my main site, you can see my live music work, my event work, portraits, my blog that has older stuff, and then my archives page, and then contact. But then I have these other pages that are private, don't come up under Google searches, and I can just kind of send it to people as needed. Like if someone's like, hey, I have this work event coming up. Do you have examples of that? It's like, sure. I have a private page where I've been hired by, organizations to document like their annual their annual meeting or annual conference. Like I have a separate page for that so that I can send to them because it's just easier for me to have that ready. And if I get the email, then I can just, send a small pitch, send the page, and then reply back rather than being like, okay, I have to dig up all these photos. Yeah, it's just like there and ready. And every now and then I kind of go in and add new work to that page. So it's kind of current. So they see that I have, multiple events on this one page that they can refer to. And then at the bottom, it's just like I have a form. It's just like asking, when is your event? Like getting basic details, and they can just fill that out and send it back to me.
Yeah, that's also such a good point. You touched on it a little bit, but you know, we all do lots of, or maybe most of us do lots of different types of work, and we don't always want to be hired for the same work.
Hmm.
So it's like, maybe I'm a music photographer, and yeah, I'll do a wedding.
Yeah,
I don't always want to do a wedding, so I'm
right.
not going to present that. I'm not going to present that all the time. But
Hmm.
for the right job, for the right people, it's like, yes, here's my private page that you can have. It's such a good idea. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And then if, someone needs to set up a page, like I always recommend this. Like I know everything costs money, but if you have a Lightroom subscription, Adobe has like a free site that is already built in your subscription. So that is something you can use. Like I highly recommend having your own website that you manage. Like Instagram's great, like people will find your work that way, but you should have your own website. Like if Instagram goes away one day, like you need to,
Where's all your work,
yeah,
right? Where
exactly. Like all your stuff is gone. So it's nice to have a page that you control and have your work on to send to people to contact you. Just have it there and they can find it.
Absolutely. So if you're already using Adobe, definitely get that website. I also have one on the Adobe one. Like people are using it. You can do it.
Yeah. And it's
What
pretty easy. Like it's yeah, it's easy to set up. I recommend it all the time. Like when I've talked to music photographers, they're like, I don't want to, pay for like a Squarespace or format or whatever. And it's just like, but you have a Lightroom subscription, like use the Adobe thing.
already paid for.
Exactly. You pay for it, it's there, just use it. Have your own website.
There you go. I want to backtrack a little bit. You mentioned how maybe different blogs, websites might use your photos a little later. So not
Mhm.
exactly like direct coverage, but they want to use it to promote future shows or something like that. Um, are you licensing your images? And if so, how does that process look like? Do you have a contract for that, agreements, stuff like that?
Occasionally I do get licensing requests. So yeah, I have like some contract templates that I purchased from this lawyer. I think her name is the law, like the website is the Law Tog. So I'll use that as like a general, especially if I'm doing weddings, I have like a general contact because I want to protect myself, especially should something happen.
Yeah.
Um, but in general, like a lot of the music blogs and places that I contribute for, it's like it's very informal. You basically, contribute, you cover a show and what they will want, which is completely fair, is the right to publish the photos first. And then after that, you can do whatever you want with those. So like there's a local outlet here called Hellgate and they have an agreement and I believe it's like 30 days they want exclusivity and then the images are yours. So if I cover something for them and then someone sees it and then within 30 days they would like to republish it, then I think they have like specific language like, Edwina Hay, courtesy, Hellgate, Edwina Hay. Like they have a specific
Yeah.
sentence, so I'll just provide that language per the contract. But in general, it's the agreement is the website gave me the photo pass, so I return the photos, and then after they publish it first, which is completely fair. I mean, I was a photo editor of the site, and I was like, if we get you access to this show, we get the right to post the photos first, and then after that, they're
Yeah.
you do what you want. But some artists will make you sign um, licensing agreements in order to cover them, and some of them are very I don't I don't know. Some of them are very easy. It's just like, you're allowed to cover the first three songs of this artist and then, if you want to use it in your portfolio, you have to get permission from us, which is fine. But some will like want to basically take the rights of the images, which I don't recommend signing. Like if an artist wants to basically take full rights without paying you for them, then I don't think you should shoot the artist. If I am not going to shoot the artist if I see languages in a, agreement that does that, I will either ask for revisions or I just won't shoot the show.
Yeah, there you go. In terms of licensing images, can you give maybe just like an average rate that people can use if this is their first time? That it's like if you're gonna be licensing an image later on, this is a good number to probably start off with.
Yeah, I can't give a number off the top of my head. I do have software called Photo Quote that I can recommend, and if anybody, wants me to run it for them, I can do that. But I think Photo Quote is a good software to use. Like someone had like a small band reach out about using a photo on an album. It was like a very limited run, and she gave me the details, and I plugged it into Photo Quote for her, and I gave it to her. I think she didn't want to charge them, like she knew she had to charge them something, but she didn't want to charge too much because it was a small band, maybe pressing like 200 albums. And then I ran it and then I gave her a number and she was like, I think I can charge them lower and I would feel comfortable. Like I don't need this money. So I also think it depends on you, but definitely if someone wants to license your work, you should charge them something. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
everything costs money. Your
yeah,
time and
it
your equipment, your effort, everything should cost money. So if someone wants to license your stuff, you should charge them something.
Thank you. I've never heard of that software before. And you're right. It does depend on the context. Like you want to charge something different for a billboard versus an album cover versus a website, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think it was like the photo on the back of an album, and they only made like 200 LPs. So she was like, I don't want to charge them. Yeah, like you don't want to charge them as someone doing a billboard the same rate if they're doing something small run. But
Right.
if someone wants to use your image on a shirt for a tour, then obviously you need to charge them more money.
Yeah. So I also heard you mention you were a photo editor. Were you photo editing also in the music space or were you in a
Yeah.
different part?
So it
Okay.
was for Impose Magazine, which is a music website. So my husband and I were the co-photo editors. So basically, we were sending requests for shows for photographers, reaching out to publicists, being like, hey, so and so would like to cover this upcoming show on this date at this venue. Then the publicist would confirm. And once the images were in, we were running those photo sets on the website. And then I would send the link over to the publicist at the end just to kind of show them, hey, the person that you listed, they took the photos, here's the coverage. And then we would kind of make sure the photo sets were going up. One cool project that the site had was called Shot by the Band. So we would also coordinate getting disposable cameras to people. We
Nice.
would buy the cameras, give it to the artist. Artist would return it to us. Then we would get them developed and scanned and put those on the website. So that was mostly the photo editing. And then we kind of did a few photo shows where we had our regular contributors, submit a piece of work and we would print it. I think one time it happened in Brooklyn, one time it happened in Chicago. And then Impos would put on shows. So we would also make sure we had a photographer in those spaces. Like if they presented a show at South by Southwest, we would have someone cover the Impos shows and do that. So that was mostly the photo editing role.
That's so cool. I'm also thinking about the photo lead position. One of the last conversations we had with China Keys, she
Mhm.
let us know that she had been working for this festival for a few years and then she got the opportunity to become photo lead. Is that something that you also did? Photo lead a bit?
Um, No, so it was a smaller website. So it was like a smaller independent website. So basically I would shoot and kind of do the administrative work of getting the photo sets up. And I kind of left when I was just like, okay, I need to shoot again because we had a lot of people contributing and it was,
Yeah.
I also have a full-time job. So it was kind of hard to navigate full-time job, then coming home and editing people's photo sets, scheduling them to go up the next day in WordPress, publishing them, reaching out to PR to
Right.
coordinate people getting photo passes essentially, and then sending that. So it became a lot of work, and I was just like not shooting at all. So I kind of resigned when I wanted to basically be out shooting again.
Yeah, I bring it up because I think it's just really important for people to know that like this job can turn into a different kind of job. Like
Yeah,
you could be a photo lead for a whole team at a festival. You could be the photo editor for a publication at a festival. Like there's so many different things we can do here. You can be the shooter. You can be the person
hmm,
on the team. You can work with the festival or the artist. Like there's a lot of different options in the way that we can grow in this industry.
absolutely.
Yeah. Can we go a little bit into some of the challenges you might face? I mean, considering you've done so many different formats and you've been in the music industry, and the thing people always say about media and music in general is how tough it can be, which I don't necessarily think we should subscribe to difficulty and like thinking that that has to be our journey, but obstacles are a part of any journey. So I'm curious how you've like just handled maybe rejection or even misogyny, like in the pit at these festivals, in these places. Like the fact of the matter is, while we might know tons of Black women photographers or just women photographers in general, it's still a male-dominated industry. So yeah, can you talk a little bit about maybe a time that that has happened to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like in New York, we are very lucky that there's a lot of different people kind of doing this work. So you'll see a lot of the same people over and over again at shows and you get friendly with them. But there are people that are just, not not the most pleasant people to be around. So you kind of just have to ignore them and kind of concentrate on the reason why you're there. And I have always said, like, if this stops being fun, like if I'm not having a good time doing this work, then I will take a break or I will just stop. So, like, once this stops being fun for me, then I can't do it anymore. So I think like you just have to concentrate on what you are doing, align yourself with people that are going to support you, that are going to lift you up, and kind of be your cheerleader. Like I have multiple group chats with photographers, and we're always like venting to each other, but then we're also like, you got to do this. You're so good. You have to have that group of people that will have your back no matter what. And I feel like that's extremely helpful. Just finding your community who will support you, and people to reach out to and remind you, like, yes, this person might have treated you shitty, but there are other shows, there are other opportunities for you to do this work. And, not every shoot's going to go great, and when that happens, you kind of move on to the next one. You're just like, okay, I learned like maybe shooting this artist isn't the best because they don't like a lot of lighting, but maybe you can turn that into an opportunity to be like, okay, how do I make great work with low lighting or not the best situations? Like I did a lot of DIY spaces, and they don't have great lighting. Like they'll just have like a light bulb on stage. And if you can make photos look good in that type of environment, then I think, okay, well, I know how to make good photos in this really dingy spot with, two light bulbs, then I can handle a theater or, a bigger thing because I made great photos
Like,
in this. Yeah, I was like, I made great photos in this shitty space. Like, I can handle anything with like a great lighting director or great lights. Like, if you can make good photos in a bad situation, then you can do anything. So it's just going out and shooting, learning. If something goes wrong, then you kind of learn from it. You're like, okay, what was the thing that made this a bad photo? And you
about
kind
that.
of, what?
Can we talk about that? I'm
Yeah.
wondering because I mean, let me know because I'm not a music photographer. I mostly do portraits, and I see the opportunity for, I guess, like a failed portrait session where you walk away
Hmm.
like, oh, I did not get the shot.
Right.
What, how do you navigate submitting photos that you don't love? Where like potentially you don't think that you got the shot, you don't think that you did a good job. Like, how do you get over that obstacle?
I tend to overshoot. So I feel like
I
even
don't worry about that because I always get the shot.
yeah. So it's like I overshoot. So if I have weaker photos, then I just don't show them or submit them. So if I get something that I'm not thrilled about, I'm like, well, I have this other one that's a little better. So that's the one I'll send. So, but then sometimes with the gift of time, like you can go back and a shot that you didn't love, like immediately, if you go back 2 years later, you're like, well, if I re-edit this now because of all the time I've spent editing, I can kind of make this work. So sometimes you'll get stuff where at the first time you don't love it, but then if you go back, you know, a year or two later with more, like if you are, starting out and you don't know Lightroom as well, then you're just like, oh, this is a shot that I don't love. But maybe you take a class and you learn how to edit, you create a new editing style. Then you might want to go back to that shot that you didn't love 2 years ago and re-edit it, and then it's a better photo. Editing is also a tool that people use and kind of, make, I don't know what to say, lackluster images look a lot better because they've gone in and spent the time editing and turning it into something different.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a situation like this, things happen. Like shooting festivals, most of them are outdoors. The sun is changing, things are,
Mm-hmm.
there's thousands of people around you, and maybe you have an overexposed shot and you edit it and it could be perfect after that.
Yeah.
I also love going back a couple years later and re-editing photos because no matter what, ideally, you've learned something, you've changed and like upgraded your editing style or your workflow in some way that I remember doing it for myself. I had an era in my life where I really loved high contrast photos and
Hmm.
and then a couple years later I went back and I was like, oh, the way I edit now, this is a completely different mood and a completely
Yeah.
vibe. And I love that feeling of being like, this is almost a timeless image, something that you
Hmm.
never know.
Yeah,
Also,
so I would say always save your like original files, with I shoot in RAW, so I always keep my RAW files stored on a archive drive and you can always go back and re-edit for something, It could be for you, if you're like, "Hey, I learned that do this style of editing now. Let me go back and, revisit that photo that I didn't like the first time and see what I can do now."
yeah. Speaking of hard drives, of course we all should be using external hard drives to keep our archives. But do you have a brand that you completely trust that is like they're holding the 1999 files?
Oh man, I have old hard drives that are under my desk, and I'm pretty sure like I started out with Lacey. That was like a brand where I was just like, this was what's available. But I feel like now I want to say I use what is on sale, but mostly I feel like Western Digital has served me well. Gonna knock on wood. I'm trying to think. Yeah, mostly those SanDisk. I have SSD drives from them. I use that to kind of transfer stuff off my laptop because it's quicker to kind of transfer it to an SSD drive and then transfer it to my externals than to like try and copy it over the network. I've done trying to copy over the network and it takes forever. It's so much faster to just copy it to an SSD drive and then copy it to the external hard drive off my laptop.
Mhm.
So those are the ones that come immediately to mind, but I know people have recommended Samsung and
Mhm.
other brands, but
I
I'm mostly Western Digital because that's what I tend to catch on sale. I
I
hate to
feel
say it.
real.
Yeah.
I also use the SanDisk SSD, and I also agree. Like, it's just so fast, especially
Hmm.
if you're in a pinch, if you're on the go, you're moving it. It's just quick enough. It's just
Hmm.
for real. Do you have any other tools you like to rely on, whether that's like some more software things or physical things like accessories or belts or stuff like that while you're shooting?
Um, I'm gonna shout out Ellen Cooper Playa because she was the first one I saw that did this, but she got a Carhartt tool belt and it's like $25 and I never have enough pockets, but that's where I put like my lens caps, filters, earplugs, like it all goes in the tool belt because I never have enough room. So I feel like tool belt as extra pockets when you're out shooting is a lifesaver. I stick my phone in there. Anything else I can think of, like just yeah, because I never have enough pockets. So tool belt as extra storage. What else? Batteries. Extra. I always carry extra batteries and memory cards. I cannot recommend that enough because anything can happen when you're out shooting. I have had batteries die like years ago. I was a one battery body person and battery died and I could not shoot the rest of the show. It was for myself, but it was like that had to happen in order for me to recognize that I should always walk around with extra batteries and
Right.
potentially extra memory cards in case something happens on a shoot. Um, yeah,
And
I've
at least
actually
that
loaned
so you don't have to. Now you know you can just bring the extra
extra
battery.
stuff. Yeah, please. Yeah, I remember shooting a show and someone's like memory card just either was full or it just stopped writing and I just had an extra one and I just gave it to them. Like,
Nice.
yeah, I was just like always have extra memory cards and batteries.
Also, I'm an extreme pro SD card user. I prefer them. I just learned about another one that's supposed to be really fast. But for folks, I think for portraits and things like that, you could likely get away with the smaller, or excuse me, not smaller, but a slower memory card is probably not.
Mhm.
But thinking
Yeah,
about shooting a fast-paced
yeah.
artist or something like this, like making sure you have a fast memory,
Fast.
I think is
Yep,
awesome.
that is very important. Another thing that I was going to mention, I use Photo Mechanic for ingesting photos. I can basically put metadata in. If I protect my images as I'm going in camera, I usually protect before I import. Then I can kind of go in Photo Mechanic, filter out tagged, and then kind of either rate images or color code them. And those are the ones that I'll want to tackle first. So highly, and I feel like ingesting from Photo Mechanic is so much faster than ingesting from your camera directly into Lightroom. So that is a software that I recommend.
I've heard of Photo Mechanic, but I haven't used it before. So can you talk a little bit more about the process? Like for metadata, for me, I do the syncing in Lightroom, like
Mm.
add all of my things. Does that look similar in Photo Mechanic, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it's basically you can, I think it's called ingest, and then there's like a pop-up window, and then you can add in metadata. So what I like to do is put my name in there, um the artist, location. Yeah, you can put like the name of the event on the right side, location, tags, like I usually put, my name, concert photography, various tags, and then that information will pull into Lightroom when you add the photos from your hard drive that have already been ingested from Photo Mechanic. So
Nice.
all that stuff kind of carries over to Lightroom.
I thought we did. We just added in the chat that we already had a conversation about Photo Mechanic. It was a webinar in 2021.
There
So
you go.
check that out so you get like the full course on how to use this software. And I think we also had another conversation at one point just fully about metadata and like what
Hmm.
you should be adding and like knowing when to do it, how to do it, stuff like that. So look, a full resource right there. Shout out to Polly. Okay, beautiful. Can we talk a little bit about your editing? We're coming down on time. So
Okay,
really
sure.
the software that you use, some things you like to rely on. Do you make your own presets or LUTs or anything like that?
I just do straight editing in Lightroom. I have a few presets that I have for kind of color correcting, so I'll rely on those, but I tend to just I don't know. I like colorful images. I kind of will play with, making them a little bit colorful. But and if there's a little bit of noise, I kind of try to take that out. Sometimes I'll see like spots and stuff. Like actually shot something the other night after a thunderstorm, and there were a bunch of flies flying around the speakers. So that is
Oh,
something that I was just like, I need to take out. So I'll just do minor corrections like that, but I kind of tend to stick to as much as how it looked to me when I'm editing. Like, there's definitely some people that kind of have a specific style, and I respect that. But I'm just like, I just want to get this done and move on. Like, I don't want to spend a ton of time editing these photos. Otherwise, I am just going to like want to. Cry if I spend a ton of time editing
I think
photos for a specific style. I just can't.
yeah, that's an important part of the process and like being good with yourself about know the type of artist that you are. Are you
Mhm.
the person that's going to develop a full editing style, or are you the person that wants to recreate reality? Like this is
Yeah.
exactly what it looked like, which I guess is more aligned with documentary photography
Yeah.
versus like your artistic expression. But I think it's so, so good. Also, knowing if you hate the editing process, don't make it harder for yourself.
Exactly. It's just like, I want to be done. I want to go to sleep. Like a lot of the times I'm shooting, it's just like, yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize, like, we document the shows, but we're up, we come home, we come edit, we're spending time editing, and then we go to sleep. So it's just like, if I want to go to bed, I'm just like, I'm just going to make this look as good as I can. If I see some spots, I'm taking it out, and then I'm moving on so I can go to sleep.
There you go. Exactly. Oftentimes we're all like, excuse me, like balancing multiple jobs as well. Like
Hmm.
just mentioned, you're editing two projects right now. Like this is the kind of workflow we have. So if you can find a way to make it simpler or like seamless for yourself, you should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Edwina, I had so many more questions for you, but we are coming down on time, and I'm so grateful you could join us today.
Of
Thank
course. Thank you so much for hosting and asking great questions. And again, like, if anybody's listening and have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Todd O. Young, who's been like a champion of Black women photographers. He has an amazing site for music photography. That's ishootShows.com. He has a ton of articles that answer a lot of basic questions that people have, like how do I get a photo pass? Like how, what settings should I use for concert photography? Like he has articles on that. So I recommend that to people all the time. I wish it existed when I started. But he's been doing this for a while and he has a ton of information. So if there's something we didn't address here, I would say visit ishootShows.com.
There you go. And we just dropped it in the chat. So all of our links, we always share the brands, the things that we're using. There's always, or typically there's cheaper options too, so you don't have to buy the most expensive thing.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
one thing we always mention in almost every conversation is like relying on each other, asking your friend to borrow that lens or, that ND filter, and keeping this community and ecosystem is so important to us. So just to close out, I want to say thank you again to you all for coming to this conversation, and thank you to Live Nation Urban again for the support. We have so much more coming. It's Black Music Month, so let's celebrate with all of our favorite Black artists and our Black creatives, and we'll see you in the next conversation. But before we go, can we take a quick selfie?
Absolutely.
Okay, yay! All right, peace, y'all. See you on the next one.
Bye, everyone.